Hi guys, welcome back to Telltale. I'm Emily.
I'm Greg.
He's Mr. Right.
Yeah.
Because that's what your mug says. But
Then why am I on the left side all the time?
mm,
No,
because
I'm
that's
not
where
on the left. Yeah, I'm on the left side.
you're on the left side.
If I'm Mr.
You're on
Right,
my
why
left.
am I on the left?
I don't know.
That's messed up.
We gotta switch it up. We gotta switch sides sometimes.
Okay.
We'll see how that goes. Anyway, we are discussing a topic today. Because recently, how do you say his first name? Roald
I say Roald,
Dahl.
which is
Mr.
probably
Dahl,
wrong.
author, Mr. Dahl of like James and the Giant Peach, The Witches, what else? Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, Charlie and Chocolate Factory and the Glass Elevator.
Yeah.
Did you say Matilda?
I haven't said Matilda yet.
Matilda and
So many others. Fantastic Mr. Fox.
okay,
Yep. Those ones.
but well, I think maybe people today know, but for a long time, a lot of people didn't realize he had a lot of very adult horror fiction.
Yes. Yes, he did. I think most
And
children's
his
authors
most
did.
famous collection, I think, was called Switch Bitch.
Nice. I'm intrigued. We're going to have to
Uh-huh.
read that. Anyway. So we are specifically talking about Roald Dahl's children's literature today because it has come up that certain publishers have chosen to rewrite some of his work to include more...
It's bigger than that.
Yeah.
The foundation that is in charge of all of his copyrights and such
Mm-hmm.
has agreed with
Given
the
permission.
publishers. Well, they are involved in doing a lot of the rewriting.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Yeah.
actually in cahoots with the publishers to rewrite Roald Dahl's books in order to put more politically correct language into the books.
My first argument is this. Counterpoint. What child do you know is actually politically correct? My goodness. I don't know a single child who will be politically correct, even if you politically correct them. I mean, sometimes they try. If they're eager to please or have people-pleasing tendencies, then sure, they're gonna be corrected. But, like, I think all the time I hear kids in Walmart, why is that lady over there fat? Or, like, why is that man in a wheelchair? Like, they don't know.
Well, yeah.
And education, yes, is
I
important.
remember when I was a really little kid, I saw
Mhm.
this woman that was very obese,
Mm-hmm.
and I had no experience with that. And I asked my mother, kind of within earshot of this woman, why was she like that?
Mm-hmm.
And it was an embarrassment to my mother, an embarrassment to this woman, but I had no clue.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know why people would be that way when I didn't see anybody else like that.
Yes. And I think I understand that the publishers want to try and educate a modern public by doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Because children are that way. I don't think corporations should necessarily be in charge of that.
No.
I think that should be parents. And I think, and some people will be like, oh no, it should be the schools. No. A majority of the education a child receives should be from home. I don't think that the schools should have as much influence as they do or have the pressure to teach this kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
just because they're understaffed and they're under-equipped
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have the intimacy that a parent should with their child if they're in a loving relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that education needs to come from the home primarily first, as much as possible. I mean, you don't have to be a math whiz and teach your kid calculus or anything like that, but
Mm-hmm.
these basic common things need to be addressed. Also, I feel like, why would you change the language? Because he was
Because it's offensive.
Yeah, but at the same time, back then it was normal. And being able to have that conversation of, okay, back then, I mean, we did it in high school.
It was normal, but it wasn't
Yeah.
right.
No.
But it was, nobody... It's kind of like the arguments we've made in other videos. Well, yeah, there were societies where it was normal to be a cannibal.
Yeah.
It's not... We don't see anything right about that, but there were societies in the past...
Yeah, it's a societal
where they
construct.
had no clue that was a bad thing.
Yes, and I think learning history in a much more, I guess, I don't know what I'm trying, but like, you need these things in order to be able to bring up conversations about what was typical and atypical in history. And being able to keep history in mind is such an important part of understanding where our culture has come from and where it's going, even in children's literature.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine not having been able to read To Kill a Mockingbird when I was young.
Right.
That was such an important book for me to understanding racism and inequality.
And even that one, people have not
It's
liked
banned.
the fact that it has certain words in it that
Yeah.
we're not supposed to use anymore.
Yeah. And it's banned, and it's dark, and it's heavy.
And
You want to know what else is heavy? Where the red fern grows.
Never read
But they never banned that one.
I never. Probably
The
'cause
dogs
nobody's
just
read
die
it.
in the end. That's why it's heavy.
Okay.
Spoiler alert. But, like, it's heavy for a child. But that's a kid's book.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we need kids to have education, and these are great ways of bringing up the subject. I think a lot of the reason why publishers are doing this sort of thing is because parents are lashing back because they don't want to have those conversations because they're too hard.
Yeah.
Or they hurt the morale of their child, or their child doesn't understand they should be able to enjoy a book without having to deal with all this heavy stuff. And
Well,
I'm like,
and they have this extreme vision of protecting their children.
yes.
You know, you're not doing your children any favors to hide reality from them.
No. And I think as things come up, learning in the moment is probably, I was raised by an educator, so learning in the moment is what a majority of my learning experience was.
Mm-hmm.
So I was fortunate enough to have an educator who had some experience, but also was my mom, and helped take care of me and helped like build this beautiful relationship of both educational and having this loving family relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand not everybody has that, and not everybody has the skills to have any kind of, educational background, but there's nothing wrong with taking a crack at it. And if later you realize, maybe I should re-explain that, there's nothing wrong with that either. Or seeking ways of having these conversations before you have them, if you can't have it in the moment. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
I liked being a kid who knew stuff because I didn't go into anything feeling completely blind or unsure. I think it took care of a lot of anxiety in my mind.
Yeah.
And also having that relationship with my mom. If I read something that sounded inappropriate, I'm like, why would they do that, Mom? That's mean. It's like, that character is just mean. And then we sit and talk about why we read characters like this and why they lack empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And why they're important to the story. That kind of conversation is important.
But I just kind of think, where do you stop? Do you rewrite West Side Story to eliminate the street gangs with knives because knives are dangerous and we don't want our kids playing with them?
Yeah.
I mean,
do we
how
want
far
all the
do you
books?
go to try and protect people and make things politically correct?
You could do what like China's doing right now. There's a lot of violent anime, which is, a lot of it is geared towards adults. So what China's done is anything that's too bloody, they take all the blood and turn it white. But now it looks like cum all over the place. Yeah. So, like, there's clearly an international issue with how to address a lot of these uncomfortable subjects. And what's wrong with just talking about it? And using, like, the fumble around until you figure it out method.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck around until you find out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love that phrase. Because that's literally what any human is doing. We're just fucking around until we find out.
Yeah, and what's wrong with teaching our kids that somebody who uses a certain word is just an ignorant, small-minded person that should not be listened to?
Yeah. Like, I also see the counterpoint that people are like, oh, but we want to make it less okay in literature for these views, because we are having the issue now where it's suddenly okay. Well, people are trying to make it okay to use certain terminology that is extremely taboo or extremely offensive, especially on Twitter right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they're probably thinking, oh, well, let's nip that situation in the bud by taking all of this offensive stuff out of these books and making it less offensive. But I'm like,
yeah, where do you stop at removing offensive? Let's eliminate any kind of battle scenes from books because
war
fighting
is
and
rough.
blood and war is offensive and bad.
Yeah.
You all of a sudden come down to where every story is just about somebody standing on the street corner doing nothing because anything they might do might offend somebody.
Mm-hmm. Especially the children. I'm like, let's stop let's stop glorifying keeping children ignorant and let's start actually educating them
Yes.
in the moment.
Mhm.
Let's start talking about why it's important that that language was used then and why
Build some
that
strength
it's different
in them
now.
to deal with the world instead of trying to protect them from every little thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because you're not doing anybody any favors
No.
by using that method. Plus, you are eliminating some pivotal parts of a story because these children genuinely had, especially like in The Witches, one of the things that they're describing one of the witches being really ugly
Mm-hmm.
and like that she
Oh,
was
you can't
bald
do that.
and
That might offend somebody.
yeah, that she was, well, what they had done is that she was bald and wore a wig to hide her baldness.
Mhm.
That's what the witches did. But then they
Yeah.
have to add like, oh, but there's nothing wrong with women wearing wigs in general. I was
Mhm.
like, these children are having genuinely passionate feelings and merely describing a thing. Like, you think that your child is suddenly going to think that anybody who wears a wig is a witch? I'm honored. But, you know, like, but like, having that conversation, it's a fiction. It is literally a fiction. It's supposed to be weird. And these kids
Yeah.
are having realistic, passionate feelings and descriptions with the language that Ronald Dahl, however you say it. I can never.
Yeah.
I always call him Ronald because that's
Okay.
Dahl is trying to describe from a child's perspective what they're experiencing and
Mhm.
why that's scary to them.
Mhm.
And why that's weird. Because culturally, it is kind of weird to see women wearing wigs.
Yeah.
It is kind of strange.
But it happens.
Yes.
Women lose their hair too.
Yeah. And there are some cultural reasons why women wear wigs. There's Orthodox Jewish women who shave their heads and will wear wigs because they need head coverings
Mhm.
and things like that.
And
It's
there's
great.
cosplay.
Yeah, and there's cosplay. And there's women who are too busy fighting the patriarchy to feel like they need hair. But sometimes they want hair, so they have wigs. I don't know. Like, there's a myriad of reasons. Why can't we just sit down and have that conversation with our kids? Why do we need this literature to be changed in
Mhm.
any manner?
Mhm.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and I am never in favor of changing works of the past, of authors who are dead. It's different if an editor wants to say to an author writing a book today, trying to get it published, hey, you got to clean up the language in that because our readers will not appreciate that. That's different. That's a living author, purposely using language which they know our society is against.
Yes.
And they should know better and should not be putting that in their books today. They
Yeah.
should be writing for today's audience. But Roald Dahl is not alive. He
No.
was writing for a different time, a different era when there were different attitudes and different feelings about these things.
Mm-hmm.
And leave his work alone. It is
Yeah. It's still
of
important to
his
convey.
day.
Yeah, it's important to convey history accurately.
Mhm.
When you start rewriting history, you are no longer. It's like people eliminating the Trail of Tears from curriculum
Yeah.
these days. The atrocities that were committed by the American people, I'm not even going to say white people, because the American people was still a melting pot of a lot of people treated towards the Native Americans is important to convey. And honestly, I feel like it's still whitewashed, even the way I was presented it.
Yeah.
We need to stop acting like kids can't handle this crap.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta
But
stop.
I think in a much larger perspective, we
Mhm.
all need to stop fixating on the past and worrying about what was done in the past. and
Yes.
Focus more on what we are doing today.
Yes. We can't change
take
what's
lessons
happened.
from the bad things of the past.
Yeah.
But don't try to change what we know about the past. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
And focus on what's going on today and fix what's bad today.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's so important now. Like, I think it's great that we have more representation in books and literature now. Because that is
Yeah.
the response to having these past issues.
Mhm.
That's important. We wouldn't have this response if it hadn't been for those.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, we're eliminating the potential of someone having growth and later seeing, I see that was done wrong or badly. I want to do better. You are eliminating the potential for showing very obvious growth.
Yeah.
When you start changing the past to being more now-minded.
Mm-hmm.
You're just eliminating possibilities for people. I think that's rude. I think it's rude. Yeah. Especially for all the creatives out there who like want to have a cause. You're taking away a cause for them.
Mm-hmm.
And like that might give someone their sense of purpose, and that might also give them one of the best pieces of literature or ideas that we've had in our modern time. Because we don't learn from what agrees with us. Mm-hmm. We learn from adversity. Mm-hmm. And so we have to experience some adversity, at least to have any sense of growth.
And it does open the door if a children's author like Mr. Dahl did write books that we don't want to put in front of our children today. Well, all you authors out there, get busy and write great books like that are appropriate for our children today. Mm-hmm. Or and you can win awards and make lots of money and have your books become just as famous.
Yeah.
And made into movies.
Or even like, why can't you just be a responsible parent and read it yourself and decide if you think your child has the cognitive ability to read something like that and not take it as seriously? Or so you know that if conversations come up, like why do we have to put it on why are we giving corporations so much control of our daily lives and our families? That's disturbing to me.
They have control of everything else in our world already anyway.
But I think too, a lot of the time, we're letting people off too easy.
Yeah.
Like you as a human are the one who has to have the influence in your family's life.
Yeah.
If you don't, then the big business is going to. Like, I hate to make it sound dystopian, but that's the truth. Indoctrination starts at the source. The source is the people producing it.
Big business is going to do what's best for their bottom line.
Yeah.
Not what's best for you and your kids.
Yes. So I think that being able to have works be exactly as they are and having just a more discerning public is probably more of a danger to capitalism. I don't know. I'm starting to sound a little I
don't think that would be a danger to capitalism at all. I think it would open up a lot of opportunities. Mm-hmm. I mean, because think of it, if people were making their own decisions and not allowing large organizations like the government or corporations censor things, then a lot more types of books could get written.
Yeah.
People that didn't agree with them just wouldn't be reading them.
Mm-hmm. And so some books would just be niche, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. What's the problem with that? Nothing.
They'd still get published, and a small number of people would still read them.
Exactly. But yeah, I think I've said all I can say on this subject without sounding like a broken record, because honestly, I could go on about how aggravating it is to deal with this subject. But it's frustrating. It's frustrating as a person who has gleaned so much personally from reading things from the past that I disagreed with. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's setting us up for a less discerning future.
Yeah.
And I think
we just reviewed
dangerous.
Lolita, which, I mean, that's
a hard book.
You know, that's a book that has a lot of bad things in it, but we defend it because it brings those bad things to light. Yeah. And so I would not change a single word of that book for any political reasons. Yeah. I think that's just wrong.
I also feel that way about Dr. Seuss.
Yeah, well, he's been under fire too because he's written some books that have some bad things in them.
Yes,
but come on, he was writing back in the 1940s.
Yeah, and his books are beloved, and there's nothing wrong with using that as a way to have a conversation with kids of why we don't use that word or we don't say that type of thing anymore.
Yeah,
it's a learn. We're eliminating learning experiences.
I mean, I don't. You know, I read Cat in the Hat, Horton Hears a Who. I don't remember anything bad.
I think there were just some terms like, I think there was someone who called someone Oriental or some kind of like racial thing that's no longer considered PC now. But back then it was totally normal to call someone that.
Yeah.
Or it was something specifically for, I think someone who was Chinese. Mentioned in a book. I can't remember the details. But like they decided to stop publishing that book because it was racially insensitive. And it's like, okay, well, or we could just start having a conversation of why that's racially insensitive.
Yeah.
instead of just stop publishing it and eliminate it from the public
Well,
altogether.
if a publisher doesn't want to publish a book, that's fine.
Mhm.
That's their business. They don't have to publish every book in
Yeah.
creation. They can pick and choose what books they want to put out there. But
Mhm.
censoring it completely or completely rewriting it, that's not right.
Yeah. And it's not like versions of it don't exist, but I think there's a lot more gray area than humans want to realize. I think we want things to have such black and white labels because that feels safer. And life isn't about being safe.
Nothing is safe. Nothing is black and white.
If you want to have a full human experience, unfortunately.
For us, the one that I would never put in any of our books is the gold bug.
Oh, yeah.
I would never change a word that Poe wrote of that story, but I would never publish it.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
I'm pretty easygoing about racial slurs and stuff, but that story was just over the top with it.
Yeah.
So I would never publish it. But I just wouldn't publish it. I wouldn't try to eradicate it or change it or anything like that. I just wouldn't publish it.
And honestly, too, I feel like, I know, now I just said, I think I'm done talking. Nope. No, I'm not done talking about it. I'm going to keep going. But I think I probably have... There are a lot more fictions, I think, about what African Americans or what African people dealt with during slavery that were fictions than ones that I've ever read that were like history books or textbooks.
Mm-hmm.
And especially ones that are based on true stories or like anything that Angelo or Hurston wrote, because they lived those experiences. And that was real life for them.
Mm-hmm.
And their memoirs are extremely important. Do we censor them?
No.
Like, exactly. So why would we censor fiction?
Mm-hmm.
All right, now I'm done.
Okay.
Because I have to be.
And battery's flashing, so we're going to move on.
Yep, and I have to be. That's why I have to be. Yep.
Thanks for watching us this long and putting up with this topic. And we hope you will come back for more of our videos. We hope you'll leave comments of how you feel about this.
Mm-hmm.
And like us, subscribe to us, like our Patreon, help us out. Check out our website, all those good things.
Yep. And we will see you next time, guys.
Bye.
Bye.